All righty, folks. Can everybody in the back hear me okay? We've got the troublemaker table way in the back right there. That's worrisome. Meringue and Dan. It's a terrible combo. So I know we have Buckhead traffic we're competing with today, but we don't want to waste any of y'all's time. We want to go and dive into this. For those of y'all that don't know me, my name's Zach Knight. I'm the founder of Advancing Line for Veterans. You're going to hear a little bit about that. And I'm the Chief Impact Officer for Patriot Growth Capital. You're going to hear a lot about Patriot Growth Capital today. We have the team here. We have some amazing strategic partners, some amazing people, and we're really setting forward a big project that we're taking over and trying to make some big impact here in the Southeast, but specifically here in the Metro Atlanta area. So to kick us off and get us moving in the right direction, I'm going to welcome up Mayor Kurt Wilson, the mayor of Roswell. He has a couple notes he wants to share with everybody before we get started too far into the presentation. Please welcome the mayor, y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, since I got notes, I got to go put them over here, so forgive me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today with you and so many incredible veterans. To each of you as veterans, I say two simple words. Thank you. Thank you for your courage, your service, and the sacrifice you've made on behalf of all Americans. It is because of you that we can gather today in this very special place and enjoy freedom. Patriot Growth Capital and ATLVets are committed to changing veterans' lives by investing in their future. It's about giving those who have served a new kind of mission, a mission of pursuing the American dream. This innovative approach of aligning technology and enterprise aligns with what the city of Roswell has going on. We're bringing high-paying jobs in defense, aerospace, and healthcare. We've had a lot of success. Support for veterans transitioning to the private sector is one of the most important and noblest things that you and I can do. And I believe in the extraordinary power of leadership of Patriot Growth Capital and ATLVets and their ability to execute this mission. Roswell is one of those special places in the United States where people choose to raise their families, to do business, worship God, and call it home. It's true for me. I hope it's true for so many of you in this room that you're also Roswell residents. I tell you, Roswell has stood proud in supporting veterans. We're proud to be home of so many veterans. We know that the impact of veterans didn't end when they took off their uniform. And it's clear to me that veterans like Patriot Growth Capital and ATLVets continue to lead, inspire, and strengthen this community and our country every day. Something to think about as you look around the room and the number of people in the room is that today, there's about 60 people in the room. 21, that's right, the number is 21 American former servicemen, American vets, will take their lives today. And that's why this mission is so important. It's about reinstilling hope, hope with a purpose, hope with practicality, hope with radically changing lives, changing our culture, changing our country. I don't have to tell anybody in this room today, we have holes in our hearts throughout wherever we look, throughout the landscape. And that's true for many of those who I consider the best of us, our veterans who served us, that there are holes, many holes in their hearts. And that's why this is so important. So Roswell, by the way, if you don't know this, Roswell will be the first city in the United States will have a vertiport. If you know what a vertiport is, check it out. I think you'd be impressed. But Roswell, along with Patriot Growth Capital and ATLVets, is going to be the human performance accelerator of the ARC, the state of Georgia, and the Southeast United States. And I'll tell you, we're looking forward to solidifying and memorializing our relationship with Patriot Growth Capital and ATLVets. With that, I'll let my friends at Patriot Growth Capital take it away.
All right. Everybody's being very polite right now. Dig in. Got the chicken at the table a little bit. So guys, I grew up the son of 2 Marines. It was a very intense upbringing. But they raised me right. They instilled a lot of hard work, discipline, a little bit of OCD, maybe a little anxiety. They always told me 3 things growing up. Number 1, you're going to college, you're going to make something of yourself, and I really appreciate it if you can afford a scholarship. Number 2, join the military, get your 3 meals a day, see the world, make something of yourself. Option 3, go to work at McDonald's drive-thru. I think what they were really trying to tell me, not so eloquently, was you're going to be a winner or loser in life, right? There's no handouts, you're not inheriting anything, you got to go make life for yourself. We're going to give you every opportunity to do that. So what did I do? Chase sports. Got an advertising degree, ended up working in startups here in Atlanta. First gig was at 22 Square. Working with Chris Cup, been a big mentor of Bruce Hollis in my life. I got to work with a ton of technology, running social media strategy, right? This is a new term in 2010. There are a lot of startups starting to talk about the moderation of the comments and feeds, all the likes, the ability to create contests, all that sort of stuff. But what I really enjoyed was the technology piece of it. And there's a lot of in-between stories that, if we have time, off record, maybe a cigar, I'd love to tell you because it's made for TV for sure. But I ended up going to work for a man named Reggie Bradford. I used Bitru's software, which is a SaaS-based social media relationship management tool, basically a CRM for social. Reggie had created this company. I was using it at 22 Squared, but I got the opportunity to go to work for him. And started at mid-market, worked my way up to enterprise, started leading teams. We got acquired by Oracle for $350 million. Chris Tuff gives me a call. All right, you're going to go to Blink Media. You need to meet Dave Williams. Dave Williams had founded 360i, one of the largest digital agencies in the Southeast. Sold it, bought it back, sold it again, and then started Blink Media, which was a Facebook preferred market developer. I won't go too in the weeds there, but before you could buy your own ads and put your own stuff out on Facebook, you had to use preferred market developer. So there I got access to the Facebook client partners, to the Instagram client partners, to the Twitter client partners. In technically, with a little bit of that software. Was an enterprise rep, flying all over the place, had a ton of fun, made some good money, but built a lot of relationships. My career would kind of follow that trend, right? A founder, somebody I'd worked for before, a client that I impressed would point me in the next direction. Over the 15 years I spent within the startup space, I was a part of $1 billion in acquisition. Right? I was also responsible for over $800 million of sales, led massive teams, figured out how to scale them, figured out how to raise money, all this amazing stuff. It's crazy to talk about. But, it all came to a head. I've had 2 boys now, more than 6 years old. Went through COVID. That's when we had our second one. And I started to realize, I'm on the road nonstop. At this time, I'm working for Learfield, which is a college multimedia rights holder. I worked across 171 college athletic programs. Any of that stadium signage, any of those commercials running during the game, footage on the 5G device and the AT&T commercials, those are our partners, right? And that was an amazing job, amazing role. But I was on the road more than I was ever. I was at games with the C-suite and their families on the weekends, and I was at universities on my partners during the week. I quickly realized that, somehow I have golden rims now. We got some news about my younger son as well. It kind of changed the trajectory of our family. And I figured out, Zach, you got to figure out a way to be home, control your destiny a little bit more, and use the powers that God gave you for good. And faith is incredibly important to me. God was calling me to do something else. As I put that out into the world, and this, funny enough, Tom Breedlove's here. You know, massive catalyst for my life. If you guys don't know this man, meet him. You know, I met Jonathan Bates through his masterminds, and I put that out to the world at a retreat we're at in Kentucky. And Bates kind of nudged me and said, "Hey man, like, what if we bought companies and we're already profitable, but we train veterans how to be the owner operators of that business?" You know, that's all I needed to hear. That was, you know, pretty impactful. I needed to chew on it a bit, but like we had something. So in January 24, we started putting this core 4 together. Started building it. In October of 24, I left corporate America. I'm doing this full time now. You're going to hear about our mission. You're going to hear about our core values. You're going to hear about the economics. You're going to meet one of our veterans that's made it through the filtration process that will be implanted into our first business. I just want to say before we get going, very grateful for everybody's time. Thank you for being here. John, let's do it.
So I'm so blessed right now to see so many friends. Thank you for coming out and supporting me. Let's hear it one more time for Zach Miller. He's our CEO. He said it was tough, but I'm so grateful for the two Marines that Rachel was. Yeah, so Patriot Growth Capital here, our mission is to impact 1 million veterans by 2045. And how we're going to do that, I'm about to share a little bit more with you. I'm going to share, we're going to talk about crazy, our culture, our core values, and share a little story of really what sets us apart, what the mayor was talking about, and how we're investing in veteran families a little bit different than everyone else. So, is that okay? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. So, crazy. When you get out of the military, and tell me if you've had a similar experience changing jobs, you get up and you go in and you're going to tell your colleagues what you're doing next. So the least level things, least crazy thing you can say, first level, is I'm going to get a good job.
What's up, guys? I just want to say, Zach Knight. Good to meet you, brother. Zach Knight.
Second level, too.
Careful. Like flexed on me.
I got a regular job. People are like, oh, that's not a good job, bro. But we're American, good people. Third level of crazy is when you come in, you're like, I'm starting.
When we're talking, make sure you hold the microphone.
That's not a job. Like, that's not a thing. That's so crazy. We move to the fourth level of crazy. When you said, hey, I got a great idea this morning. Start my own business. You're like, what? Dude, there are no set-asides, no safety net. That's crazy. And the fifth level of crazy when you get out, tell me if you've ever heard of another veteran say it. I'm going to buy somebody's already successful business. You're like, what? Who are you, Elon Musk? Where do you get out there? You're going to destroy your family? There's no way you can do that. You don't have any experience in that. Well, Patriot Growth Capital embraces that fifth level. But what allows us to do that is our culture. 26 years in special operations, every major conflict we've had, I've been able to bring back every single person that I spoke with all their limbs and digits. It's not easy sometimes on the bomb squad. But what did it was a culture of we think about you so you can think about others. I can't have somebody worried about this armed bomb while they're thinking 100% how the family's
Zach, good to meet you, Ashley. Been back and forth with you. Thank you for being here.
Speak up a little bit back here.
Yep, sorry. We have his family's best interests at heart. We sent him to get one house up to take his family safety so that he can be here.
Coming to gesture. The audio's
How to
good.
translate into business.
Yeah, but what do you have a guy in-house that
Not right now. Normally.
You know that we want you to be the best version of you for you. Because that's the best version of you for us. So that while you're at work, you concentrate on employee customers, but more importantly, you can go home, practice faith with your family.
Best I can with the words.
You
You can look at that panel, the main volume should be on there.
That's the culture that moves the entire special operations forward. And that's what we do here. Now, that's backed up by our core values. Our first core value is deep relationships with long-term people. We want to know everything. We want to know your hopes, dreams, not just professionally, but personally. What legacy do you want to live? What's your kids there? Oh, what restaurants do you guys want to go? What vacation do you want? And that is so that we can create value. Value means two things to me. Number one, dollar sign. I've noticed that every extra dollar sign is. But more importantly, number two, something that doesn't even take one. That's unique experience. Those goals we're pursuing separately, they're so much more fun, so much more powerful together. Our second core value is do well by doing things. That doesn't mean that I need you to be Mother Teresa because I'm far from Mother Teresa. But what it does mean is that I believe, and we believe, that you should be good steward of what you've been blessed with. To create that value. I don't know of a parable anywhere where somebody's happy when you pay back less than you. So our job is to make sure that you're blessed with overflowing please, so that you can go out.
I'm Zach.
Great
to meet you. I know this guy. What's up, man? What's up, brother? Wherever you can find a seat, please.
That's something.
It's 90%. That's his eyes.
Our last program is 80 players only. Now, who's been on a team with somebody who wasn't 100%? Yeah, you can point to the person who's not, who's holding back. The worst thing that I can do, or anybody can do, for a company and for our team, is allow A, B players on the team. A players are just B. Racehorses like fun, racehorses. If I was to condense everything in your mind, that all the definitions of A player, to me, that diamond that is produced for an A player is somebody who says, who does what they say they're going to do. Those are our three core values. I want to share one personal core value with you. A couple years ago, I spent a month straight in this traumatic brain injury clinic, Mississippi. I ran into a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in 20 years. You know that guy, where you're like, what's up? And you pick up exactly where you left off. We grew up in Mount Harmon. We got families together. My kids like his kids. My wife like his wife. And my wife doesn't even like me. Like 95% of the time, maybe 96.
One of the players on the far side, I got fair for you, so make
But
sure you
we looked at each other because of that love and goodness that we saw. We committed to do more right together. A couple months later, he called me. Let's do it. Wreck. Life got in the way, and then suddenly,
where's it at?
somebody in town.
Oh, like on the fourth wall over there, if you're good with that. Yeah, just as people, or wherever you can sit down.
And that hurt me. A lot. I lose on average 4 people a year. Sometimes it's not safe. You just aren't following the war zone. And like Mary said, sometimes people hurt us. And so, I had to do some introspection. I realized that my level of regret is inversely proportional to how hard I try to close the gap between reality and what in this case, I had spent 20 years doing things that I didn't really like to do with people I didn't really want to do it with. So my last personal core value is that I only do business with people I like. That's why every one of you are here. Somebody that I know, love, and trust is invited you. I haven't invited myself. And that frees me up to concentrate on the first 3 core values. So, when you get out of the military, actually, let me step back. Everybody here is successful. Everybody here feels and knows exactly who you are. You know, confident in what you're doing, what you're working on, what your mission is, what your purpose is. You know, and you're
While our setting, can you make sure you set those 2 tables that are empty? That's for the team to eat afterwards. Is that okay? The ones on the floor of the booths.
what you're gonna wear, how you're
You
gonna
can
get
set
there,
any of those settings for us. Yeah. Thank you.
So good. Your purpose and mission is clear. Your identity is clear. You're responsible for that. In terms of operations, anything chemical, nuclear, biological, hospital, diabetes, underwater mines, that's who I was. The next day, you're retired. All that's stripped away.
That's not right now.
This, you know,
When I'm not talking,
scared.
I'll signal to you.
I'm not that guy. I can't say that I'm a rockstar guy anymore. So I'm not doing it.
Even if you want to sit right
So
here,
much
then
of
we'll
what
come.
we
It's
got our
fine.
identity into.
But all the booklets are right here.
What?
Everything's right there, so just
Brothers and sisters, I felt my purpose unclear. It,
after
the worst part of it
I'm
was,
done. When I'm done,
I walked into my 16-year-old daughter's bedroom, 26 years away, thought, these are the people that
Listen to
I
you.
have. I'm standing in church. And she looks up and says, hey, Dad, why are you in my week? My family doesn't learn to live it out.
Audio's bad. They keep Zach and John both up.
14 years straight, never owned more than 2 years. There's 2 kids' entire life. I don't want that for anybody else.
Why?
And so,
And 60 includes 8 of us. So should be
You started-
and I'm down right telling you.
that fit level of training. And how we do that, things, is we recognize that because of an experience that I went through, that owning a business is not the first stock you get out. In fact, my dad had 3 jobs. We moved every couple of months. I joined the military. Owning a business is something somebody else does. It wasn't impossible, it was not a reality for me. So how do we solve that? Everybody knows Zach Knight and Advancing the Lives for Veterans. He does an amazing job of bringing big business, successful business people, successful veterans together with normal veteran families and shows them a new reality. It creates the possibility of what they can do in the future. The second problem we solve, where am I supposed to find the money for a business? What does a good business even look like? How am I supposed to do that? And we solve that at Patriot Growth Capital by finding great businesses, doing at least $1 million capital. They have systems, processes, and people, and supply chain, and market share that are already running. We buy those. That brings us to the third thing. Nobody likes to live like a fool. Nobody wants to die. The great right where all the dreams are, all the good ideas, that nobody's enacted upon. We help people get through that fear of looking like a fool and failing by our practical MBA. And the practical MBA is a 5-year program. The first 2 years, they're in the business. We're learning systems and processes and the language of that unique business. The one that they are going to own, that they know they're going to own from day one, that we want them to own it very quickly. The second 2 years, strategy, raising them up so they can think better and clearer and see how to work on business through experience. In the last year, we had all together with both, make sure that they're ready to transition to business ownership with confidence. Now, you can go get an MBA somewhere. I'm sure every one of you have. And that's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at the end, you still got to figure out what you want to do. With us, they get paid at 40 hours a week for 60 months. They get over 10,000 hours of experience in the business they will own. So that confidence, that clarity, that purpose is given to that entire thing. Now, who here is a veteran? Raise your hand. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your service. Appreciate it. Who here has a veteran ever in their family tree? Look around real quick. Almost everyone. It's amazing. It's awesome. That's why we're the greatest country ever. Now, I'm gonna ask you to trust me real quick. Close your eyes just for a second and think about that family, the people that you care about, the people that you love, that have that veteran in their family tree. Every single one of the people that you're seeing in your house, in your mind right now, every single person that you love, is eligible for the practical MBA. Those are the people that we want to raise up. And that was all I had to share with you today. And with that, I would love to bring up the man, the myth, the legend that everybody knows and loves. There we are. Oh, there he is. Zach Knight. Please give him a round of applause.
Such a beautiful man.
Thank you.
All right, so a lot of y'all know me. I'm the one that spammed y'all's emails, sent out all the stuff, do a lot of social media, and try to just make sure y'all know what's happening with the Invention the Line for veterans. I thought it was great to have the team here. John came up from Florida. Jeff, who you're going to hear from here in a second, is our Chief Investment Officer. He flew in all the way from Seattle. We try not to hold that against him as much as possible. But we wanted to give context of what is Patriot Growth Capital, who are we? Because as you heard John talk about our core values, it really focuses on that long-term relationship, right? That deep relationship with long-term people. And to give context of who I am, a little bit of my background, for those of you that don't know me outside of ATLVets, I was an Army guy. So any other Army people in the room? Thank goodness, because these Navy guys, I'm getting tired of them, just to be honest with you. And the Marines, like there are like 2 Marines in here maybe. So we don't want to talk too much about Marines either. But my journey, I was born and raised here in Atlanta, about 2 miles from the Battery. I used to play in a pond in a pasture that the Battery was built on. So I don't know who structurally did that, but I don't know if it's sound. But this is everything that we're doing here. ATLVets, Advancing the Line is the ATL. But I wanted to bring it back to Atlanta. With Patriot Growth Capital, I'm going to talk a little bit about a project we're putting together that's going to further both veterans, economic development, some many things here focused in Atlanta. But I was also a local police officer. So I did 7 years as a police officer here in Atlanta, did all the cool guy stuff, SWAT, narcotics, thought it was awesome, lived a great life. Then I realized I wanted to shoot bigger guns and blow up bigger bombs, right? So I joined the Army naturally. And it's funny, I talked to Air Force folks and they were like, why didn't you join the Air Force? I was in the 97th percentile on the ASVAB, the entry test. Like, because I'm not that smart, so I had to join the Army, obviously. When I joined the Army, I spent 7 years in the Army. I deployed with the Green Berets. Kind of come to find out a year later, after a combat deployment where we lost 6 out of 50 folks, I ended up finding out I had nerve damage in my left arm. And it didn't appear initially. Normally you have all like the sensitivity attached to it, the numbness. I was actually doing push-ups on Fort Benning. My thumb dislocated, as men, pop it back into place, let's rock and roll. And I did that. And then everything from my elbow down went numb. I'm like, that's not right. Kind of shake it out, it'll be fine. A week later, everything was still numb. So I went to the doctor and they're like, we got to have surgery on you. Right about 2 weeks before the surgery, realizing 15 years of uniform service was coming to an end, knowing, just had this feeling. Y'all ever have that feeling, especially going into surgery? Like, it's just not right. Something's not right about it. I was at the end of a dock. I had a bottle of bourbon that I just emptied, and I had a pistol in my mouth. I was ready to go. This was in 2021. So you heard the mayor talk about 21 a day. I was seconds away from being one of those statistics. And divine intervention stepped in. And thankfully, I obviously did not pull the trigger, but I realized I was on a path that I did not set for myself at that point. I realized everything I had planned so perfectly was about to take a very big left turn. A couple weeks later, I had the surgery, a 4-hour operation, 1 surgeon, turned into an 8-hour operation, 2 surgeons, and I still don't have any feeling in my left hand. Miller is a big golfer. The first time I played golf after the surgery, I'm like, heck yeah, we're getting back into it. Broke the head off my golf club. And I'm like, all right, well, that driver is not good anymore. So like all these things that we take for granted in the civilian world, we kind of forget like the small things that we can't do anymore as veterans. Fast forward, I founded ATLVets. When I was getting out and transitioning back into the civilian world, going through all the PT, the OT, I kept getting told, update a resume, you'll be fine. 15 years of service, you'll be fine, right? I couldn't tie my own shoes. So every time I heard, you'll be fine, I immediately looked at that person, I'm like, you're lying to me. And I got really angry about it. The survivor's guilt, all the anger buildup, all the things that were internally isolating myself from the entire world ended up leading to a very dark path. And what I couldn't find in the veteran community was an organization that focused on advanced veterans, guys 15, 20 years in, that had some amazing experience. Because what we realized is, or what I've realized now, is a lot of people can't really understand the translation of skills. They can't understand a trigger puller, truly all I was, right? Couldn't understand how I could help a company advance themselves. So I founded Advanced Line for Veterans. In the last 2 years of our existence, we've expanded into 12 cities, 10 states. We're growing very rapidly. It is a traditional 501c3, and we really serve veterans that are farther along for that transition to help them find equitable transition into the civilian world. When John came to me, he had this great idea, and his thing is, my vision has to be so big, you can see your vision inside of that. And he told me about Patriot Growth Capital. And I laughed in his face. I'm like, oh, you're crazy. Private equity, that's not for me. I'm not that guy, right? I don't know numbers. When tax time comes around, I head for the hills, right? So he's like, Patriot Growth Capital, this is what we're gonna do. And I need you, me, because you have the veteran talent pool. You have this thing going. You have these operators that wanna do something more than go get a 9-to-5 job. So he pitched me on it about a year later after telling him no, no, no. He's like, all right, man, it's time to go. I've got a team ready to go. An amazing team ready to go. It's time to pull the trigger on PGC. I'm like, cool, where do I fit in? Because I still had that thing in my head, right? I don't fit into this world. And he's like, you're the chief impact guy. You're the guy that's gonna build the veteran talent pool. You're gonna go across the country, build ATLVets, and really bring all these veterans into a central point where we can then direct place them in the companies that we're acquiring. I'm like, awesome, I can do that part. What's come from that, my vision for ATLVets was to have, anybody been on Fort Benning? A few people on Fort Benning. Y'all remember Building 4 on Fort Benning? It's called the Maneuver Center of Excellence. It's a classroom, library, resources. It's where you go when I went through Captain's Career Course. It's where you go to learn and where you study, right? There's the PT field outside, you get a workout, and then you go learn. And then you go off into your career 6-8 months later, depending on how many times you fail tests. And I had this vision of creating a veteran center of excellence here in Atlanta. I want this to be our home base. I want to make sure that the resources that Atlanta has from economic development, from the great partners, veterans understood this is where you need to come. Atlanta's the spot to be. So I wanted to build this veteran center of excellence, focusing on a few key things in entrepreneurship. Y'all met my better three-quarters downstairs. She works out a little bit. She owns a corporate health and wellness company. She has been the epitome of what has made me a better man the last several years. I obviously had to lock that down, right? So we got married a few months back. She's my retirement plan, if I'm being really honest about it. And I wanted to make sure, you heard about the veteran family. I wanted to make sure the veteran family is engaged. Her brother's an Army guy. Thank goodness he's at least Army. Deployed when she was a teenager. Her dad had an injury when she was a teenager. Her brother had to come back, and he came back a different guy. As most veterans do, we come back very, very different after seeing combat. So she understands the journey of a veteran family member. As a sister, most organizations don't serve parents, siblings, kids. They just serve the veteran and the veteran spouse. So as a sister, she didn't choose the life of having a deployed brother, but she had to deal with it all, right? So that's where the big core of our family tree, how do we change the family tree generationally to make sure the siblings, the support system of the family is there? So this Veteran Center of Excellence, a full mental, physical, health and wellness facility that has the human performance element. How do we get our mind right? How do we get our bodies right? Offices, workshops, conference centers. We're, again, the MCO building, the VetCo, the Veteran Center of Excellence. Over the last several months, Brandon Quinn, who's hiding in the back, he's a Navy guy. These Navy guys. He came to me, he and his partner Travis came to me with this idea. They ran this event quarterly called the Atlanta Defense Tech Network. One of the conversations was Atlanta has all these resources, from academic to corporate to strategic partners to Roswell moving in some defense tech over the last few months. We have all these opportunities, yet nobody wants to stay in Atlanta. We can't keep the talent here. So I threw out my idea. What if, crazy idea, we take the Veteran Center of Excellence and overlay it with a defense technology business accelerator? That's the big piece of this conversation today, is what if we brought all these resources into Atlanta? Think about the economic development, the impact for veterans, the capabilities we'd be able to achieve through this facility. So the overlaying concept where we're at and what we're building right now is we have our Human Performance Center, we have the Conference Center, we have the co-working space, a Defense Tech R&D lab, SCIFs. If y'all don't know what SCIFs are, anybody not know what SCIFs are? Secured Compartment Information Facilities, I think that's what it's called. Something like that. Secured conversations around defense technology. So if you think the comparable would be Atlanta Tech Village, right? ATDC, but we want to be the next step. No different than ATLVets, we're the next step. So the accelerator will take incubated companies, help them accelerate through strategic partnerships, mentorship, VC capital. And we become the center point of where we have all these amazing defense technology businesses, organizations coming into Atlanta. The differentiators, the SCIF access is a huge piece for capabilities. The focus on human performance. How do we actually improve day-to-day life for people? And then the veteran talent pool that ATLVets brings in. This creates a very different opportunity for companies that are businesses that we're accelerating. One aspect that we wanted to bring tangibility to, the mayor obviously spoke to the strategic vision in Roswell. We have conversations with UNG happening. How do we bring in the cadet program, academic research, right? People smarter than me. They make fun of me. I'm in a doctorate program, and they're gonna have to call me Dr. Zach. And then I'm like, we need somebody smarter than me because we're doomed if it's me. So to bring context into this facility, it's a great idea, a great concept, right? But we have to see the tangibility. And that's where I want to talk to y'all a little bit. I'm going to bring up Ben Busick next. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation. Ben's been in our program, another Army guy, sorry y'all. He's been in our program, our senior leader track, the entrepreneurial track, and the Patriot Growth track, focused on what's his transition look like. And I want him to give you a little bit of context of his experience while coming through Patriot Growth Capital, if y'all are good with that. Welcome Ben up here. Let's talk a little bit about it. And he's wearing a beautiful tie. If we sit down, are y'all gonna be able to see us well enough? If you say no, it's good, because I'm not that's the pretty Zach. So if y'all don't want to see me, that's fine. I'll say, let's stand. So that way Dan can make faces at me from the back of the room. So Ben, Army guy, 25 years of experience, 23 special operations. He does highlight, he has a couple dogs at the house, the wife, the kids, no cats, because he's not a cat guy. But give a little bit of background on yourself about what'd you do in the military, what was that last role that you had, E9, so all the way up there. And he really, for enlisted guys, rose to the top of the ranks. Give us a little bit of background on your military career.
Yeah, thanks, Ad. Seriously, want to say thank you everyone that came out today. We really appreciate your support. First and foremost, I'm incredibly blessed. Have an amazing family, and they supported me. Like I think a lot of the guys said, in the military, we get all the training, the equipment, the experience that we need to be successful in our mission. But our families don't. We have to figure it out. They don't get any of that stuff. And so my family endured quite a lot over my 25 years of service. 5 of those years were, like, if you consolidate all my combat time, it's 5 years in theater doing combat stuff. And man, it's been an amazing ride, but glad it's over. I just retired in February. As Zach mentioned, I retired as an E9, so that's a P grade in the military. For those who are not aware, there's no E10. That's literally the highest you can go. After that, it's just positions that you get, that you keep stacking and doing more things with more political people. So I had a great track. We'll probably get into it in a little bit. I was destined to do a lot more, but like on base, man, that I had to get that big discharge. And that was because of an accident we'll probably explore here in a little bit. But to the point of some of the touch points I had in my service, again, like the community I worked with was all A players. We were elite, the top 1% of the entire Department of Defense. It is an extraordinary opportunity, and you're surrounded by great people. Matter of fact, I never worked so hard in my life to be average. Like, that's all I was. I was average compared to all of my brothers and sisters to my left and right. So I'm incredibly blessed to be there. And one of the roles that I got to play a part in was I was running operations. So I was a J3 Sergeant Major. All that means is that I made sure the people that were doing the missions had the equipment, supplies, all the things they needed to be successful. And that task force was 3,000 people large, and we were spread across 8 countries. And the thing I love about A players, Patriot Growth Capital, ATLVets, is that they are all A players. And so that organization that I had to make sure was a success, the organic people that went through the same type of selection process I went through, there's only 160 of us. So you talk about culture, you talk about the speed of trust, we were talking about that earlier here. We had to influence and build that character to all the augmentees, the people that were not part of our organic unit. We had to influence them somehow. And it's having leadership, it's having that speed of trust. So a little bit about my career.
And it's been, I mean, that's a phenomenal career. I didn't make it 25 years by any stretch of the imagination. And what's interesting is I've met and learned more about Ben, and he's been involved in our program. He had an interesting piece that happened during COVID. We all remember COVID. The shutdown affected so many different things, both business, personally. You have an interesting piece of this where COVID was the first time across, again, 5 years of deployment. So you think he was in country for over 5 years across his 25 years. So you're in and out every 6 months. Tell us a little bit about COVID and how that shifted for your trajectory with the family.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. So generally speaking, 8 to 10 months out of the year, I was gone. Right? Not just deployments, but training trips, schools, like all of the things that, again, were meant to set up for success where the family's living without you. You know, quick story about my wife. Someone, associated friend, another mom would say, "Oh, my husband's gonna be out of town for like 2 whole days. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself." And she would just be like, "Oh, that sounds fun." But for us, COVID, not a fun subject to talk about at all, but in the state of Virginia where I live currently, we had a 3-month lockdown. It was 90 days. That was the most consecutive days that I've ever been home. As a husband, as a father, I never had 90 consecutive nights in my own bed. It could go really long for a lot of people, but for us it was amazing. It was a game changer. It changed my mindset and helped me to realize, wow, you know, to the point earlier, like, I'll do this with my family. I'll take that next trip. I'll do the deployment. I'll volunteer. I've been with my family. Well, that was yes. And I realized that really I truly need to focus on my family. And so for us, COVID was a huge, huge blessing.
And I know a couple years later, we talked about medical retirement, which is far too often, John, me, you, the medical retirement, the bad part about a medical retirement is you're not planning for it, right? It's like the uniform literally gets ripped off your back. For me, for us, not the Navy, but for the Army guys, it's the big green boot. You just get kicked out the door and forgotten about, right? And it's a terrible experience because then you don't know what the heck you're gonna do. I'm trying to censor myself. You don't know what the heck you're gonna do with your life. Tell us a little bit about the retirement. What happened? Tell us about that piece of your journey.
Yeah, so in 2022, oddly enough, my wife and I were on a marriage retreat. It was a special operations marriage retreat designed to like give you some downtime with your spouse, allow you to reconnect and do just activities together. So the stage was in Montana, gorgeous place of the country, and we were there to literally spend 10 days together. It was all expenses paid, amazing opportunity. I'll save all the details, but long story short, we were riding ATVs in the mountains. Ours went off the side of the mountain. My wife and I were evacuated by air, and we spent 3 weeks in the hospital. We were away from our kids for over a month, so we depended on our friends, my teammates, my daughter's swim team, people to take care of and raise our family for a whole month while we lived in hospital beds. And there was an immense amount of guilt, a whole lot of things associated with that because I was driving ATV. And I felt bad that I almost killed my wife. But then to make that matters worse, a week into the hospital, she bled out, like an artery burst in her lungs, and she almost died. I watched her almost perish right in front of me. And so that was really hard to get through. But again, that's that family first thing. That that accidents, the injuries incurred from that, and again, all my military career, a lot of crazy stories, a lot of great times, a lot of trauma, but it never affected me until that moment. And so that was the moment that catapulted me to the retirement process. And again, you don't get a say in that, right? They just say, the doctor's like, hey, we're medically retiring you, and that's the end of the story. So here we are today.
So one of the things that we've had a lot of questions about, well, how do we select veterans to go through the PGC process, the intake process? How do we make sure, in the private equity world, this is about making money, right? How do we make sure we don't find a veteran that's gonna railroad that? Because there's no experience in business, right? John talked about the practical MBA and the 5 years of training we give veterans before they move into ownership roles. One of the first pieces we do at the very beginning is part of our intake process. It's called our dream work. When John first talked about this, he's like, what do you dream about? I'm like, oh, those are nightmares. Those are not dreams, right? Those are things I don't want to relive. And again, laughed at John. He's a wise man for as much as I laugh at him. But he's like, no. What do you dream about? What's your dream life look like? Right? I'd just gone through a terrible divorce at the same time I was getting out of the military. And so for me, a dream was, I want to wake up tomorrow, right? He's like, expand your purview. 5-10 years from now, what's your life look like? Do you want to go on vacation? Do you want to take Taylor out to a weekend trip in the mountains? Do I want to get a puppy? I just got a puppy for my birthday, y'all. It's great. So got a new puppy, right? And we really go through this process where we make the veteran that's going through this, or the veteran family member that's going through this process, sit down with their family and go through, what does your dream life look like 5 to 10 years from now? And how is Patriot Growth going to make sure that happens? Tell us a little bit about your experience going through that part of the process.
Yeah, it sounds overwhelming, doesn't it? Well, we talk about dreams. I can assure you, in my military career, we didn't talk about dreams very often. It was only training, mission. Not a lot of dreaming. But being afforded that opportunity has actually been pretty revealing, and quite honestly, an interesting conversation to have with your families. If you've never talked about that, you learn things. You learn about how you can support friends, teammates, and your family. So some layered on some tasks when I was ATLVets in this process, but it really is a neat exercise if you have it. It stays off the book. Dream what?
Dream Machine.
Dream Machine, yeah, the book Dream Machine, where the concept was kind of derived from. But it's essentially, as Jonathan mentioned, he wants to know, the team wants to know what you're doing this for. What's your why? You know, that's probably overrated these days, but seriously, why are you doing what you're doing? Are you miserable? Are you happy? What will make it better? And so I'll just share one dream I had. We were working 5-year goals, and I didn't realize this until recently. We were talking about it, revisiting my dream sheet that I had put on my dream sheet to visit Hawaii. It's something my family's always wanted to do. We've never done it. Why not? Sounds like a really cool thing, right? But revisiting my dream, what I had not recognized that was I was already putting these things into motion. And so, if you can't see the back of the room, this is a Hawaiian Airlines credit card. I keep this on my mirror in my bathroom, so every morning and every night I can see this credit card, not to spend more money, but to build the miles, because my family's never business class in an airplane, and what an amazing once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to be able to sit in business class of the plane, to go to Hawaii and just be together. We're really excited about it, and it's going to happen in 2026. So it's a big year for us. Our oldest will be going to college. He's going to do amazing things in Air Force ROTC. My daughter, our middle child, she'll turn 16. And then our youngest, he's just 11, nothing special for him. It's also my wife and I's 20th anniversary. So it's going to be on a momentous occasion. If anybody knows anybody can get us a business class, easier to look at, but that's one of our dreams. And Patriot Growth Capital, ATLVets, they're helping us to get there. And so I think that's, I just want to invite you to do a little dream later today, if you find yourself in a few moments, because it really is a cool exercise, and you learn a lot about yourself.
Beautiful. Y'all give Ben a round of applause. Appreciate you, man. So this is where we get to the brass tacks of why we're here. The intentionality today, we're doing a capital raise. You're about to hear from Jeff Barnes. He's going to give an idea of what all of that looks like for the opportunity to be involved in what we're building. The second piece is strategic partnerships. We're looking for people, what I recognize, I cannot do all this alone. The Patriot Growth team cannot do all this alone. So we have some interesting defense partners in the room. And we have some interesting partnerships coming about where the strategic partnership piece is going to be very vital for us as well. So you're going to hear a little bit about that. But I want you to remember the baseline of what we're building here. This Veteran Center of Excellence, this Defense Tech Accelerator, the impact. One of the companies we're looking at acquiring right now, we're going through all the fancy due diligence. They already employ over 600 veterans. The line that we have on this company adds a potential 400 more jobs for veterans that would be housed in this facility. So the impact we can make for the economic development of Georgia, of Atlanta, but of veteran families, is going to be massive. So if y'all would, please welcome Jeff Barnes and the team. As he talks through this, the team is going to hand out some booklets, and y'all can flip through and see something a little more tangible. Thank y'all.
All right. Thanks, Zach. Can you guys hear me back there? So I have a lot of stuff to go through. You guys are going to get the booklet here. I'm going to be using my notes and standing here stationary just so that I can make sure I don't miss anything. Zach was talking about wanting to join the Army so that he could actually get bigger bombs. Well, my first girlfriend on the submarine was a ADCAP Mark 48 torpedo that I got to sleep with for about a 3-month period in time. For anybody that doesn't know, I was a submariner, and on a submarine, you do this thing called hot racking. Hot racking is where 3 guys get to share 2 bunks, which I think is how we get all those bad raps in the military. But we don't share it at the same time, all right? We do have to rotate through. So right now the team's passing out our booklets, our little pitch deck here. If you guys could do me a favor and not flip through it yet. I already had to yell at a few people. I know, I'm sorry, but we wanted to make sure we held it off for a little bit and show you guys this as we're walking through it, because it's more impactful when you can actually hear the story rather than trying to read everything. So, what's going to be in front of you is our pitch deck, a little bit about our business, our projections, where we're going, and what we're trying to achieve. So just hold off for a couple minutes while I tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a former U.S. Navy submariner. I was a Navy diver. At the end of my career, I was an E6. I was in charge of the engine room. I was in charge of running a nuclear power plant. I had one of the biggest divisions on the boat, and I was doing a lot of really cool stuff, some stuff that we still can't talk about. It's funny when I talk to people about what I do, they will come up to me and sometimes they'll tell me I'm retarded, I'm crazy, it's ridiculous, I can't believe you did that, there must be something wrong with you. Who goes in a boat that's designed to sink? And I said, well, I guess you have a point there. But then I meet the guys that tell me that, and they're the ones that were disarming bombs or taking bullets and jumping out of planes. I heard a story earlier about a guy that had gone up in 5 planes but had never landed one before because he just always decided to jump out of them. So, crazy is definitely a spectrum. And after my naval career, I decided to get out because I didn't have freedom. I didn't have that personal autonomy. I was there fighting for our country and believed in everything we were doing. But I didn't have that personal freedom. It was the needs of the Navy. You went where they told you to, when they told you to, and you did what they told you to, whether you liked it or not. And when I got out, I said, there's 3 things I'm not going to do. I'm not going to deal with nuclear power ever again. That red tape is ridiculous. I'm not going to do shift work. I actually like my nights and weekends, and I'm not going to work in a cubicle. And that really narrowed my job prospects down quite a bit. But luckily, I found a great job. I ended up working in the insurance world for a really large Fortune 500 insurance company, financial services business. And over the course of a dozen years, I ended up running my own department. And our job was going out there and finding unique ideas, innovative technologies that we could bring into the corporate ecosystem and make our lives better as humans, right? So we ended up doing over $1 billion in transactions, brought a lot of companies and a lot of great ideas to the market. Some of them you guys are using without even knowing about it. And that was amazing. I acquired Angel Investors Network back in 2018 when I decided to leave the corporate world. And John and I met and we said, hey, we should be doing these things together. I help people raise money. I help people bring ideas to market. But let's put this thing together. But it didn't all start there. You see, when I was growing up, my dad was self-employed. He's a small business owner. And he had over 50 employees. He was installing floors like the ones we're standing on today in really high-end facilities, whether it's a commercial facility, a penthouse down in Hollywood. He was working with a lot of celebrities and actors. And he was gone all the time, working 60, 80 hours a week. And as if that wasn't bad enough, not being able to see my dad on a regular basis, he had a business partner who had a fairy dust problem and decided to take all of the profits from the company, all the money from the company, right up his nose. So his business partner embezzled from him, and my dad went bankrupt. Long story short, we ended up homeless. We ended up having to leave California. We had to move from California got away from the IRS, got away from all the creditors, had to literally just disappear off the map, and ended up living in trailers. And I don't mean like a mobile home park. I mean like tow-behind trailer that was not even able to be towed anymore, living in motels. And to my dad's credit, he worked his butt off, and we got back on our feet. But for me, that was like, I'm never doing that. I'm never going to be a business owner. I'm not going to, that's way too risky, going back to the levels of crazy. There's no way I'm doing that crap. So I joined the Navy. And then I realized, well, this is not what I signed up for. I mean, it is what I signed up for, but I didn't know what I was signing up for, right? I didn't know I was signing up for being gone 80% of the time in a giant black tube underwater where there's not even a window to look at the whales. And I realized that I needed something different. That's how I ended up on this trajectory. And I wanted to learn about financial freedom. I wanted to learn about how do I actually make money? And so I became a financial planner. Turns out they don't actually teach you how to make money as a financial planner. Any financial advisors and planners in here? Yeah, I mean, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but they teach you the rules and the regulations, and they teach you what you can and can't do and can and can't say, but they don't actually teach you a lot about the money side. So I started going to seminars, I started learning about investing, I started learning about how to get out of that cash flow quadrant into the investor realm, into the business. Everybody here know Robert Kiyosaki, getting out of employee to self-employed, business owner, investor. And I wanted to do that because what I found when I got out of the Navy was that I had lost my purpose. We have this acronym in the Navy, FTN. I won't say exactly what it means, but when it's the needs of the Navy, you don't really like what you're being told to do. And when we got out, I realized even though I didn't like what I was doing all the time, I had a sense of purpose. And when I got out, I was another cog in a wheel. I worked for a really big company, and while I was in the military, I was making sure that the boat didn't sink. I was in charge of what's called a sub-safe program, making sure that things that could make a submarine sink didn't happen. Like, that was me. I was the guy at the end of the line. I was the quality assurance inspector and quality assurance officer who signed off on these packages. And when I got out of the Navy, you know what they said I could do? Is say, hey, you seem to have great credentials and qualifications. We think you can inspect water heaters. Like, literally, no joke, the thing that's in the closet in your guys' house, that's what they said I was capable of doing. See, the civilian world, blessed though they might be, don't necessarily understand how the skills and expertise and experience you have in the military can actually translate into what you can do in the real world. And my path took me down this place of really feeling frustrated that I didn't, no one saw me. I had no significance in life. Luckily for me, I'm one of those very driven people, and I found a way to do that by starting and failing 18 times at different businesses. So when John talks about the levels of crazy, I realized that, maybe I was on that spectrum somewhere because I decided to keep starting and trying new things, and I kept failing over and over again. But along the way, something happened. I finally did succeed. With my wife, we built up a medical practice, doing 7 figures in about 3 years. I then went into the e-commerce world, and we launched a business, and we did 8 figures in the first 8 months. And was able to actually start scaling things up, started investing in things. Unfortunately, I left the corporate world and got a divorce, and so one business went away. So I had my first exit through a divorce. Not really the kind of story you like to tell. The second exit I had was COVID, when we took this company from 0 to $17 million in revenue, and then all of a sudden they decided to shut down all of our shipping lanes, and all of our product was stuck overseas and couldn't get delivered, which meant we had refunds. And boy, if you want to learn anything about the merchant services and merchant processing world, I could tell you about it because it was a nightmare going through that. We had 400,000 sales, 400,000 customers who had bought products from us, and the last 50,000 didn't get their products. So I went through the process of figuring out what it meant to unwind a business, to go through all this process of shutting things down and giving refunds. It was not a fun experience. And I realized that there needed to be a better way for people to learn this process of being a business owner. And so I've been coaching and teaching entrepreneurs this process of business ownership, raising capital, growing companies and whatnot. And that's when I met John. And John was saying, hey man, how about we start doing this with business owners and veterans? Help veterans become these business owners. I said, that sounds great. And I want everybody to remember here that what Zach was just saying, we're here for the mission. Our mission is to help 1 million veteran families create generational wealth and family trees that have never had them. Can I get an amen to that one? That would change people's lives, right? See, we don't want these people to struggle like my dad did, like I did. I know friends, John knows friends, Zach knows friends, Miller knows friends that aren't here with us today because they struggled, and they struggled unnecessarily. They didn't know that there was another path for them. They didn't know there were people out there that were ready to help them in getting that significance, getting that purpose. I do believe that by having the purpose, it prevents some of these atrocities from happening. We want to give them a mission after the military. How are we doing that? You guys can start flipping through this if you like. Realize I'm not going to tell you what slide number because, I don't want you to try and guess which one's which. But the way we're doing this is we're starting off by raising $5 million into Patriot Growth Capital using a convertible note offering. What that means is that we're going to sell approximately 10% of the company for $5 million over the course of the next 3 years. And this is going to allow us to really transform the landscape of veteran business ownership and transforming these families, just like Zach and I was talking about. You heard a little bit about the accelerator. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But really, why are we doing this and why now and why this way? See, anybody could teach a veteran how to go out there and buy real estate and fix and flip a house. We're pretty good with tools, a lot of us. We can do that kind of thing. We can go out there and we can maybe learn Forex trading or options trading, and we can definitely learn how to be an employee inside of a job and eventually grow through the ranks. But there's that subset of humans out there that have put on a military uniform that are those ultra high achievers. And those ultra high achievers don't settle for what everybody else can get access to. You see, the reason that people become EOD, special forces, they go into these different worlds is because they always want to achieve more. That's really a definition of an A player. They want to achieve more and they're going to show up and they're going to do the job whenever they say they're going to do it. And we realize that right now we're having this thing called the silver tsunami. There's a lot of people retiring, a lot of business owners that are going to be changing hands. $124 trillion in wealth is changing hands over the next decade. It's already happening. We've been hearing about this for a very long time. I've already talked to a few people that have already retired, right? Now, I want you to think about that in the business owner world. Small businesses are the backbone of American economy. And a lot of these people are retiring. Did you know that only 20 to 30% of actively running small businesses in the United States will actually sell? That means 70 to 80% of businesses will just shut down. And why? Well, because they don't know how to sell their business properly, because they don't know what it takes to hand this off to the next generation, to find somebody to operate it in their stead. These are founders that have been running their business for 30, 40, some of them 50 years, and they never took the time to find a way to sell it or find somebody to replace them, or the person that they thought was going to replace them just doesn't want to. We have a whole hungry community of people that are veterans who would love to be business owners, but they have no idea how to get there. That's exactly what we're building, right? So, why are we going after veterans? Well, veteran business owners already make up a really good chunk of the business owners in the world, but it's a very small percentage still. Less than 5% of business owners are veterans. But there's a lot of people, like you guys just saw earlier, that are related to a veteran. Well, we know that we can help these veterans and these veteran families become business owners through our stewardship and through our programs. See, 1.6 million businesses are majority owned by veterans in the United States, and that makes up approximately $1 trillion of economic impact and revenue to the United States. We know we can do better than that, right? We know we can definitely do a lot better. Veteran-owned businesses generally tend to outperform civilian-owned businesses. No offense to the civilians, but let's face it, we had to go through the ringer in the military, so when hard times happen to veterans, it's not as big of a deal, right? I was on a submarine where our job was to sink and pretend to die on a regular basis. No joke, we actually ran drills, and a couple times we actually failed at those drills and the boat started going down the wrong direction. I remember looking at the depth gauge and watching it go from 150 feet to 200 to 300 to 400, 500, and it kept going. And not on purpose. It's because during a drill, somebody forgot to do what they were supposed to do. And as a result, the screw, the propeller, stopped moving us forward. Well, on a submarine, everybody's seen Hunt for Red October, you see the boat jump out of the water, all that fun stuff. That only happens when you add forward propulsion. You blow those tanks, those ballast tanks full of air, all it does is this and goes straight down. You cannot have a boat go to the surface without forward propulsion. We'd lost that. We were able to jump into gear, fix everything, get the boat going back in the right order, but not before we went down below test depth. Anybody here know what test depth is? Test depth on a submarine is how far down you've tested it to make sure it's not going to implode. We had gone down below that, and that's not a good place to be. Beyond test depth, you have this thing called crush depth. Crush depth is, we know you're not coming back. The first day you're on a submarine, they introduce you to the world of being a submariner. They say, hey, guess what? You're going to listen to this audio, and you're going to guess what just happened. You listen, it's like, ding, ding, and you hear the ping, and you hear all this stuff, and then, no idea what happened. What is this, Chief? Turns out what they were listening to was the sounds of the USS Thresher, one of the 2 nuclear-powered submarines that actually went down during sea trials back in the 60s. And what you heard was the sound of 150 men dying like that. You see, that really tells you how important your job is. So when we talk about business ownership, we talk about military veterans being good as business owners, there's no doubt about that. Because we're trained from a very beginning, failure hurts not just you, but can hurt everybody else around you. And we instill that in the veteran business owners by teaching them how their failure as a leadership doesn't just hurt them, it hurts every employee and every family member that's part of that business. So we are bringing this ability for business owners or for veterans to become business owners. We focus on 3 verticals. Those 3 verticals are dual use technologies. We heard about the Defense Tech Accelerator. We have a lot of people in here who understand defense and defense technology. Veterans understand defense and defense technology because we used it. We're the ones that were actually using this stuff on a regular basis out there in the field on the operating front. E-commerce. Why e-commerce? Well, e-commerce is one of those things that you don't necessarily have to be centrally located for, and we're helping the veteran families. Guess what? There's a lot of companies out there that can be run by mill spouses, military wives, right? By the kids. There's a lot of logistics and 3PL. Guess what we're good at? We're really good at logistics. When you're on a submarine and you have to show up randomly in some part of the world, and you still have to have parts show up at the right time, we figured out how to make things ship around the world. And this is a long time ago now, but I'm sure they're better. And these align with what veterans are really good at. Also manufacturing, right? Manufacturing. I was a knuckle dragon mechanic in the military. We had a CNC machine, or actually just a lathe on the boat. We had to actually manufacture parts. We know what we're doing when it comes to this stuff. And there's a lot of people out there that are very similar to me, and they want to have this opportunity. I am going fast because I realize you guys have all done eating and all the dessert's probably gone right now. So I will be quick here, but we do need to have a lot of great information to get through. So what is our core competency here at Patriot Growth Capital? Well, our core competency is first, sourcing great opportunities. All right, we know how to find great businesses. We vet those deals. We make sure that they're a good opportunity for us. The second thing is sourcing great talent. You heard from Ben. You heard from Zach and John and Zach Miller. Like, we have great people and we put them through the ringer, right? We really put them through this process so that they become successful leaders in the business before they become successful owners in the business. Okay, they can't become a business owner without first going through the ranks inside that business, very similar to how the military operates. You didn't start out by jumping out of a ship or out of a plane, landing on the bomb and taking the bomb apart, right? You never land on the bomb in the first place, I bet. But the whole point is you go through the ranks and you learn. We have the same kind of process inside the accelerator. The second thing that the last thing that we're really good at is this industry expertise. I told you the 3 industries. We have great depth and on our bench when it comes to these industries. We're going to focus on the things that we know, and we're going to implement the way that we know how. Now, what the accelerator does for us is it gives us a home base. It gives us a place for us to put the chiefs, if you will, the executives, in a facility so they can get access to these resources. It gives us a place to put the veterans so they can start learning. See, one of the challenges with veterans is, and the reason we have such a mental health crisis in the veteran community, is because of what these guys already said. I was on a boat. I could not get away from anybody I didn't like, whether I wanted to or not. We were stuck in this giant black tube. You learn to like people, or you learn to hate them at a distance, but that distance is only about 20 feet away, right? You learn to deal with people. You learn to be part of that. But we learn by being connected, by being together. One of the biggest challenges of leaving the military is that you leave your brotherhood, you leave the sisterhood, you leave the significance and the purpose you had behind you. You leave all the people. And when you leave the people and you go to your family, like Bates was saying, his daughter didn't even recognize him, didn't necessarily want him to be around, right? You can't have that kind of a great leader in a vacuum. The leaders have to be surrounded by other leaders. The accelerator gives us a place to put these people so they can have a community. They can go and they can work out. They can learn to do proper push-ups so they don't dislocate any thumbs. Zach Knight. That's all right. But they can also hang out with the people that they know, like, and trust, and are going to teach them how to be successful, okay? So we need a place for these people to go. As we mentioned, we're already in this process. This is not something brand new that we just kind of said, hey, let's go ahead and put this together and see if we get some people on board. We're currently actively acquiring businesses. We have 2 that are going to be acquired this quarter, Q3. Those are generating over $146 million in gross revenue right now, all right? So I'm going to get a hoo-yah for that one. $146 million in a couple of businesses that we're going to be putting some veterans in, all right? That's going to be a lot of fun. That's $5.7 million in profits or EBITDA that we're going to be acquiring into our company. And it gives us the chance to get 600 veterans, keep 600 veterans employed, as well as add, like Zach and I was saying, 200 to 400 more veterans into employment, doing something they know, like, and trust, and putting them into a process where they can be part of the Patriot Growth Capital Practical MBA, the Patriot Growth Accelerator, and be a part of this mission. All right. So why are we raising money? Well, we've all heard if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Getting capital and getting the right strategic partners in allows us to go farther, faster. Okay, that's what it allows us to do. It accelerates our growth. We are actively buying businesses. We've already raised money to acquire various companies. Now we're raising capital to go farther, faster, to enhance the mission, enhance the vision of what we're doing, help more veterans, and help more of these transitioning business owners who are looking for people to take over their company. I can't think of anything that would be better for somebody to say, hey, listen, I want to help a veteran. We hear that all the time. As veterans, we hear lip service all the time, right? We appreciate the gratitude. We appreciate the thanks. But I'll tell you, companies really struggle to show the appreciation. They don't really know how to do it. One of the greatest ways you can show appreciation to a veteran is give them a purpose, giving them something they can do that they can really enjoy being a part of and growing with that company. See, by raising this money, this $5 million that we're raising, it allows us to kickstart this accelerator, which if you look on, it's slide number 15-ish, 14, 15, somewhere in there. That's where we're talking about a 5-story building. Top floor is the SCIF. I had to look it up too, just to make sure. The sensitive compartmented information facility, right? So having those sensitive conversations, making sure it's very secured, top secret kind of stuff, where these companies that want to be a part of this in the defense tech sector here in Atlanta have a place to go and use. And this can be a hoteling kind of space, meaning people can come in, come out, they can rent space, things like that. It also gives us this co-working space to where we can bring these companies to Atlanta, to the Atlanta region, where people can actually sit and conference and have their meetings and do all that stuff, as well as have access to our team, right? Our incredible team of people and our mentors. And, our attorneys are in the room as well. These guys are amazing, helping these people navigate the waters of business, because being a business owner is very, very different than just being an operator inside the military. A lot more stuff you have to do with. Apparently, I failed sensitivity training when I got out, and that's why I had to go become an entrepreneur, because I couldn't stay in the corporate world. We got to teach these people this a little bit. Gives us that co-working space, and like we mentioned, we're going to have that health and wellness and facility. And guys, because of what I've done and the things that we can bring to that facility, it's amazing. We're talking things that will not just help your body, and of course eating right and working out and things like that, but what's going on up in your brain, right? How do we help you out with that? What are the tools and technologies we can bring to that? It's a really incredible opportunity for a lot of people. It's a 3-phase rollout plan, and phase 1, as we raise this capital, is launch this accelerator, get it kick-started. We're going to have temporary places for the time being. We already heard from the mayor. We're working on getting a permanent facility going, and it allows us to finalize these acquisitions and move into the next round of acquisitions, okay? So, again, blazing through this, it allows us to staff out this accelerator. We are going to have people that run the business, run the accelerators. Our job at Patriot Growth Capital is making sure we find the great companies and find the great operators, and then continue to provide the oversight. But we do need the staff to run all of this stuff, okay? So that's a big part of it. And we want to develop these strategic partnerships. There are people in this room, and there are people that you all know who would either love to be a part of this mission, who would love to be in the Patriot Growth Accelerator, or are companies that are looking for this kind of support and service. And we're looking for those as well. We also have a really robust pipeline of companies that we're already vetting, okay? And we go through this regularly. Every single week, our team is on the call, and we're looking at these companies. We get to review all the financials, how they're operating, having a number of conversations. Zach Miller was just over in California looking at actually speaking with the team and working with the team of the company that we're acquiring right now. There's a lot of work to do due diligence. I don't know how many people have done due diligence on companies before, but it's not an easy game, all right? You can't just look at a financial and say, oh, it looks great, let's go ahead and buy it. There's a lot more going on underneath the paperwork that we have to figure out and uncover, and that's what we do. We have 17 companies that are in our pipeline right now that are going to allow us to create 500 new jobs as we acquire these companies. Of course, we're not going to acquire all of them. They won't all pass the sniff test, really. And this pipeline equates to $250 million in top-line revenue of companies that we're acquiring, and $63 million in EBITDA profits that we're going after. Our job is really move fast. Again, hence the need for the capital raise. Our goal, 10-year projections, we're building $1 billion veteran-owned and operated private equity investment firm, okay? This is not a fund, it's a portfolio of companies. So I want you guys to think about Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett back before they took their company public back in the 80s, right? Who here would have loved to have put money with Warren Buffett back in the 70s? I mean, I wasn't around quite yet, but I would have loved to anyway. But the point is, Warren Buffett's company right now, Berkshire Hathaway, is worth over $1 trillion. The share price is over $700,000 right now. Not too many people are getting into that ballroom. However, when we do this, it's not just about making a massively huge company that's very profitable. We will do that, of course. It's about making an impact on these veteran families. We never want to lose sight of that mission. We will not do something that jeopardizes that mission. Our mission is to help the veteran families. We do that by creating business opportunities for them and creating an opportunity for them to start creating generational family wealth. Okay? Again, to recap, it's a $5 million convertible note, $250,000 minimum investment per individual. We can go lower on a case-by-case basis if we need to. It's a 10% per year coupon on that, 3-year maturity, and again, a valuation cap of $50 million. So if it does convert, it's roughly 10% of the company. Again, we're using that money for our accelerator, for finalizing these acquisitions, for moving forward faster, okay? And it helps us develop that veteran talent rather quickly. And the cherry on top here, I mean, as if this is, do you guys think this is cool? Let me know. Just raise your hand. Only a couple people? Come on. I think what we're doing is really cool. The cherry on top here is that we're doing this in a specific structure called the Section 1202 exemption or qualified small business stock. It allows you to invest tax-free capital gains. So dividends get taxed at normal dividend rate, but long-term capital gains will be free because we do a 5-year hold period. After the end of 5 years, if that veteran that we've installed into that business is able to, willing to, and has proven to us that they are capable of it, they get a chance to then buy the company, either in whole or in part from us. And we'll show them how to do that. That's part of the practical MBA. Teach them how to become business owners. They can earn in, earn out, they can buy in, so on. All right, we're gonna walk them through that entire process. And anybody that has a retirement plan, we know there's a lot of money. I've written a book on this one. You can actually use your IRA or your 401k to invest completely tax-free in this business. We do have that structure set up and available. Okay. There are risks. We all know that. I'm required to say that. There's always a risk with anything we do in an investment. You can always lose your money, but we're doing everything possible to prevent that from happening. And just as a reminder, our goal is to impact 1 million veteran families. So the last job here, I should say 5% of all of our net profits end up going directly back to ATLVets to help us develop that pipeline of veteran leadership, to help us help more veterans and their families, help them come back so that they don't look like the crazy person when they're sitting around Thanksgiving family dinner, okay? Because we do. We can't talk about a lot of the stuff that we did, and they think it's just because, well, we don't have anything to talk about. No, it's actually the opposite. We have so much that we need to unload, but we're not allowed to, or we don't feel comfortable doing it. Some people don't want to hear that stuff. In the very back of your packet, you have a few pieces of paper. One of them is an example of a portfolio company that we are acquiring right now in the e-commerce space. Tells you a little bit more about the verticals, a little bit more about that business, and some projections on what that business looks like. What we do with our capital, we put some equity into each business we acquire. We then seek out investors to help with the down payment or the other equity infusion to buy a company, and then we use debt to cover the rest. Okay, so banks, SBA, things like that. Also in there, you'll see a very ugly looking table. I don't like handing these out, but I know that people always have questions about this. This is really the meat and potatoes of it, of how are we going to scale this thing up. You'll see that we are buying a lot of companies, which means we are going far very fast. Our job is to raise the money and to go out there and continue doing that process so we can keep buying these incredible companies, keep helping these small business owners out of a situation they're already in, and help more veterans become business owners. The last thing I have to say is that you have this thing called the indication of interest form. You know, we have some special forces guy we're going to post up at the door before you, so you guys cannot get out until you fill this out for us. It's okay if you don't want to move forward with us right now. It's totally fine. But we do ask that you do give us your contact information. Let us know if there's anyone that you know who would like to be a part of this or help us out. So with that, again, my name is Jeff Barnes. I'm the Chief Investment Officer here with Patriot Growth Capital. And I want to bring back up our CEO, Zach Miller. Thank you. Bring it home.
Good job. All right, we got 2 minutes left. Be patient and tell the story. Every single one of you in this room is a curated list. We haven't invited anybody, right? We invited people that we thought could open doors, make a big impact, and go on this mission with us. Right, we've had a lot of conversations. John, conversations with a few guys here. I spoke with a few individuals here as well, telling their story. But I really wanted everybody to come to one place on one day for a few hours to hear exactly from the team what we're all about, why we're passionate about this mission. So all I'd ask of you guys is to, let's follow up with some conversations. Let's figure out, it doesn't have to be monetary. It could be a relationship. It could be an open door. There's a lot of ways that we can achieve this mission, but it's going to take a crew, right? It's going to take a team. So you've met my team, guys. Fantastic job. Thank you guys for having us, and hope you enjoyed lunch.